Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Hat, and today we are going to be looking at the top 5 movies of 2018. Now, I didn't start seeing movies regularly at the theater until like July-ish. I saw a few movies before that, so I'm not going to have movies like Avengers, Infinity War, or like anything else, alright? I don't know what else came out. I started this channel in July, so just keep that in mind, and shut the fuck up. Where's Avengers? It's up your ass, bitch. And yes, I'm doing a top 5, not a top 10, because like I said, I didn't see that many movies. I'm new at this, but I will give you 3 honorable mentions, so that's like a top 8. There you go. Are you happy? Number 5 is going to go to The Bad Times at El Royale. This movie was very unique to me. Like, I love the way it was shot, the story, how it was told, all the familiar faces in this movie. I like movies that have familiar faces, I know it shouldn't be a requirement, but I enjoy it. I do, like, looking back, I'm like, well, what was the whole point of it being, like, divided in half? Like, this half's Nevada, and this half's California. They didn't really play a point in the plot, but I just love how, like, there was all this different stuff going on, and it even made me think that they were, like, all there for, like, the same reason, but they weren't. They had all the different stories going on. They intertwined perfectly almost. Not quite perfect. It wasn't, like, Final Destination, like, timelines didn't add up. Like, you hear more in my review. I'll talk about that. It's confusing. It's hard to explain. But the way this was like paced, it was over 2 hours long. It was like a 2.5 hour long movie. It was like very long, but it didn't feel too long. The movie was only like dialogue. It was like a Tarantino movie in my opinion, because it was just like dialogue driven. It wasn't like an action piece. It wasn't a lot of comedy. It was just dialogue, but it was very interesting. It's also a period piece movie. It was based in like what, the 70s or 60s. I think it was like the 70s. And I always like to see a movie that's, I'm a sucker for those types of movies. But this movie was just a blast. I enjoyed it. All these like long shots when he was going down that hallway, going window to window. Lots of great camera work in this movie. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. That's why it's my number 5. Number 4 is going to go to Mission Impossible Fallout. So it's Mission Impossible 6 if you're counting. I believe it's 6. Am I wrong? I hope I'm not. 6. Whatever. This is the second Mission Impossible movie to be directed by the same director. He directed part 5, and now we got this one. And this one has like crazy ass stunts in it. Tom Cruise even broke his ankle in this movie and had to stop filming it for like 5-6 weeks and then started filming again. Lots of crazy stunts in this movie. Great like choreography fights, like in the bathroom scene. There's no music. They just let you hear every punch. I just love the way that scene was filmed. The movie's story can be kind of like confusing. Like if you don't hear something, you might be like, well, what's going on? Oh, there's like lots of like reveals, like, oh, there's this many moles in the CIA. Like the CIA has like all kinds of bad people in it. That one scene where it's like revealed that Henry Cavill is like bad, and of course that like hook at the end that's like in The Rock. It's holding an entire helicopter. That's kind of a like, oh yeah, right. That hook is holding the entire helicopter. Bullshit. I love how I'm criticizing the movie now that I have in my top 5 list, but that's just what I do naturally. I criticize little things. I like to nitpick. But this movie was just amazing. Another 2.5 hour-ish movie in my top 5. Is there a trend going on? I don't know. Is Aquaman going to be next? But anyways, let's just move on to my number 3, shall we? My number 3 is going to be a horror movie, surprisingly. You don't see too many horror movies in people's top 10s or 5s of the year. But now my number 3 is going to go to Halloween 2018. Now, my top lists aren't based on, like, this one was made better. No, what did I enjoy more? I enjoyed this movie more because I was pumped as shit for this. I grew up loving horror movies, so I, of course, was going to watch this movie before I saw the trailer. This movie is hands down the best shot, the best lit, the best Myers since the first one. James Drew Courtney, I think that's his name, that bathroom scene. Brutal shit, man. This movie makes Myers a mystery again. We don't have that stupid Thorn lore behind him and his babysitter fucked him up as a kid and then he fucked Jamie. Ignore all that shit. This movie took it back to its roots and it did it better almost than the first one. Blasphemy to say, but I loved it. There's just a couple of things that I would take out to make it a A+ movie. I would make that stupid subplot with the doctor thing make more sense, make it more believable, or just take it out, have a better third ending. Better third act ending. There, I left out a word in there. The ending is kind of like, oh, now we're just gonna make another movie that has the same people and the same, like, where do you go from here? The movie just ends with like a knife, a shot of the woman holding the knife. Allison, I think is her name, and it's just like, is she crazy? What? It's kind of ambiguous, and then it doesn't have the balls to say yes or no. Is Myers dead? Yes or no? It doesn't have the balls to just be like, nope. Or yes, it's kind of like, is he? I don't know. Just a typical cliche horror ending that horror movies feel like they have to do, and it pisses me off. But everything before that, I love dearly. I love it. But moving on to my number two. My number two is going to go to the Lee Winnell movie, Upgrade. This movie was a blast. This movie isn't incredibly action-packed, but when the action does start, you're like, oh my gosh, that was worth it. This movie's brutal, it's bloody, the practical effects with the head getting blown off with the very creative futuristic movie. It doesn't even tell you what year it is, so you get to just make it up. Which I like that, because when movies say it's the year 2100, eventually someone's going to be watching this movie at that time. They're like, bullshit, we don't have that yet. But this movie tells a really good revenge movie. It's a revenge movie, and it's also a sci-fi movie with horror deaths in it, and nice action, some drama. It's really sad in the beginning of the movie where he's like trying to cope with being a paraplegic. This movie has some beautiful cinematography in it, and it has a great twist at the end that I didn't see coming somehow. Second video, I'm like, well, no shit. How did I see that? I'm stupid. I love a movie that makes you want to watch it twice, which leads me to my number one. But before we get to my number one, let's go over some honorable mentions. First up, Overlord. This movie was pretty fun. I especially loved the beginning. And then towards the middle, towards the third act, it kind of started to go downhill a little bit for me. And then once we got closer to the end, it had like this superhero mashup between like two zombies who weren't really zombies. This movie only had like one zombie in it that we got to see. It wasn't really a zombie-filled movie, and that's what brought it down for me, because that's what I expected going into it. But overall, this movie was still pretty fun, and that's why it's an honorable mention. Another honorable mention will be Creed 2. This movie, just like other Rocky movies, tells the story about a guy who wants to win and keep his pride. He's got a big ego, and it kind of gets to him at the beginning, so he loses. But then he works on his ego and trains more, and then he wins the fight at the end. I'm pretty sure that's how all Rocky movies are. But this movie still had a good story. It's good pacing, good acting, good everything. There's really nothing too wrong with it. The only problem with it is just that it kind of feels generic, like we've kind of just seen it before, which is why it didn't make my top 5 list. And another honorable mention will be a movie I just saw recently, and that is Aquaman. This movie has the best CGI in any movie I've ever seen. I've never seen Avatar, so some of you might say, well, that's the best one. I don't care. Aquaman has the best CGI in any movie I've ever seen. This movie is like 80% CGI. The people have like voices like they're underwater when they're underwater. It makes sense. Their hair's floating like they're underwater. All that CGI just for hair and continuity for the story to make it work. The action sequences, the way James Wan directed it, chose where to put the camera and just make it all like one long shot somehow. It was amazing. I don't know how they did it. I would love to find out how they made this movie, because it was amazingly shot. But the only thing that keeps this movie off of my top 5 is because I don't really care too much about superhero movies. It's like, I don't care about that subgenre of action. It's all the same stuff. Like, I gotta put my fancy suit on and I have superpowers and I got an evil brother. Like, I feel like I've heard that so many times. Evil brother! But in this movie, you at least understand why the evil brother is being the evil brother. And then towards the end, he's like, oh, I'm not evil no more because my mom's still alive. Spoiler alert! I kind of knew that going into me. I'm like, how much going to bet his mom's still fucking alive? And then towards the end, she was alive. I was like, knew it! But anyways, let's get to my number one. My number one is going to go to Searching. I was like the only person in the theater when I saw this, meaning like one person maybe, and I was just glued to the screen. This movie is a mystery, and I love them. But this is a mystery movie that's only on a laptop or an iPhone or in broadcast, a podcast, a newscast, anything that's camera oriented, like anything like that. It's never like a movie camera. This movie was smartly written. It keeps you guessing. There's multiple red herrings, multiple like questions that you're asking the whole time. Multiple revelations where you're like, aha! Oh, there's another one. And it just keeps peeling all these layers to the story, like, oh, maybe it's her, maybe it's him. And then finally, once it's revealed, they tell you, like, everything. They leave no stone unturned. You know the whole story, but you still want to go back and watch it again just to see all those little Easter eggs that you missed. This movie, from beginning to end, like, everything you see on screen was written by the people who made this movie. No little news article on the side is real. They made it up. You see all these, like, Easter eggs of, like, this whole, like, side story about aliens taking over. If you look closely, there's always articles about alien invasions in this movie. And this movie was made by a guy who worked at Google, I believe. This guy who was working at Google, he's probably, like, my age, left Google and directed this movie. I think that's the story I heard. He left Google and made this movie. And this movie actually had the rights to all these things. Like, you don't usually see movies that actually like have Google in it or Facebook. They have to use like this fake off-brand name, like Gigablast or something. This movie had Google, YouTube, and all kinds of shit in it. And I was like, oh, they actually got the rights to use the names. That was interesting. But John Cho in this movie, you totally understand. You totally believe him and his passion to get his daughter back, and you're on board and you hope that he gets his daughter back. This movie, out of all the movies I saw this year, was the biggest fun thrill ride for me from beginning to end. I was just hooked, I was interested, and that's why it's my number one. Well, that's my top 5 movies of 2018. What are your top 5 movies, your honorable mentions, your top 10? Go for it, I don't care. Top 10, top 5, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video at all, agree with me, you can support this video by clicking on this like button over here. And you can support this channel and help me out by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds to see more awesome rantastical content. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.